I don't mind.
No, which is fine. Too exciting.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. We're going to get started. I'm going to call to order the meeting of the directors of the New York State Urban Development Corporation, doing business as Empire State Development, for this Thursday, November 17th, 2022. I'd like to take the opportunity to welcome everybody back in person again. It's nice. 3 meetings in a row. Hopefully this will continue as we enter into another winter season with viruses, flus, COVID still around. But hopefully we'll continue to be doing meetings in person. So I'd like to remind everybody that we have staff members joining us remotely, and I ask them to please keep their phones on mute until they're ready to speak. Also, the public was given an opportunity to attend today's meeting to provide comments on the agenda items. I do not think we have anybody here from the public. That is correct. We have all staff here. Right over here.
Yeah, I'm Alex Camarda, Director of State Government Affairs and Spectrum.
Very much. Thanks for joining us today. We also, we always give the public, I'm sorry, was that somebody else?
I'm sorry. Sound like a reverb.
Oh, okay. We always give the public an opportunity to comment on the agenda items by submitting written comments as well. And we did receive 2 comments that were sent. Both of them were related to agenda item VC, which we'll discuss later. And those comments were distributed to the directors and have been posted on online at the ESD website page. The directors have received written materials, numerous materials, in advance of today's meeting regarding every agenda item. And I'll now ask if there are any directors who have any potential conflicts of interest with respect to any of the items on the agenda. Hearing none, I do not have any either. So there's no reason for anybody to recuse themselves on any items today. Let's see. Our first order of business. First, I'm going to recognize a quorum that we have with Hope and Benson and John, and we have Rob Simpson on line up in Syracuse. Welcome, Rob. Good to see you. So after recognizing that quorum, we're going to get right to the agenda. The first item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes of the October 20th, 2022 directors meeting. I will move them. John, you will second them. Yes. Any comments, revisions, additions? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. The minutes are approved. And now I'd like to hand it over to our esteemed President and CEO, Hope Knight, for her President's Report. And then we're going to have a special presentation, and then we'll get to the agenda items, including the corporate actions and the resolutions. So the floor is yours, Hope.
Thank you, Kevin, and good morning, directors. Good to be here. I was on the road last month in Buffalo, so nice to be here in person. We see that winter's returned this week, and people are bundled up here in New York wearing their coats, and Buffalo's in for more than a foot of snow. The change of season has reminded me how quickly time goes by. I was at an event this past week, and the moderator commented that I was celebrating around my 1-year anniversary, and that was on Tuesday. So it's been quite a year. And we're also 1 week away from Thanksgiving, if you can believe that. And it's a time to enjoy family and friends and reflect, give thanks for what we have. And I'd like to spend a little time to reflect and give thanks on a number of fronts. I'm thankful for Governor Hochul and the opportunity that she's afforded me to lead this agency. I'm thankful to our esteemed chair and fellow directors for your commitment and service to the board. I'm thankful for the incredible staff who dedicates their time and effort to move economic development along in the state. And I'm thankful for our economic development partners across the state representing countless businesses, industries, and counties and communities. I'm grateful for our state's small businesses, which are the backbone of our communities. The past few years have been especially challenging for small business owners, and their resiliency is remarkable. We've been able to help countless New York small businesses through our portfolio of pandemic relief programs. Many of our small businesses are family businesses, and for some, they represent a family's path to the American dream. They still need help, so remember to support them during the holidays. I'm thankful for Micron and its commitment to New York State. We've talked about the investment, the jobs, the transformational capacity of this project. But beyond that, the $500 million investment fund will provide additional support for disadvantaged populations in the region. It will support vital regional investments in things like workforce development, housing, infrastructure, and child care. And the company is committed to hiring veterans, MWBE contractors, and employees from disadvantaged communities. The Micron project is an example of what we can accomplish by working together. The state, the federal government, and local officials all worked in tandem towards a common goal, and the result is one of the biggest economic development projects in New York State history. Over the years, I've visited each of the 10 diverse and unique regions, and I've been able to see firsthand the impact that we've been having in communities from Niagara Falls to Montauk Point. And I've met so many of the ESD team members who are guiding the projects and investments that are creating good-paying jobs across the state. In closing, we have so much to be grateful for this year. I hope that everybody is able to reconnect with their family and friends, eat well, and take some time off. I wish all of you and yours a very happy Thanksgiving, and thank you. That concludes my report.
Great. Thank you very much, Hope. You're right. We all have a lot to be thankful for. And thanks for the great job that you've been doing. Over a year already. Correct. So that's great. Anybody have any questions for Hope on her presentation? All right. We'll move along. Thank you, Hope. As we started last month, I've asked Hope and the team to, if we have the time at board meetings, to make a presentation on a particular topic or program that we carry out. I'm always blown away by the amount of different projects and responsibilities that ESD has in so many different areas, and the lives we touch throughout the state, and the businesses and the sectors that we touch, and sometimes there's not enough time to really sink our teeth into things, and so we're going to be having a special presentation. We're going to try each month on a particular program. Last month we did the I Love New York campaign, and that was very informative. And today we have Joshua Brightheart, and he's our Senior VP for the Connect All. And this is the broadband program that also falls under the auspices of ESD. And we have asked Joshua to give us a presentation of what actually ESD's role is in this program, and what are we doing to address especially parts of the state that need to improve that infrastructure. So everybody could be connected. So Joshua, thank you very much, and I'll hand the floor over to you.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for this opportunity. Thank you to the President. So I'm going to give an overview of the program, the federal programs, state and federal programs, and update you on three key recent actions that give you a sense of what we've done to date. And what will be ahead. First, just to introduce myself again, Joshua Brightheart. I'm a lifelong New Yorker. My entire professional life has been focused on expanding access to the tools of communication, with a real dedication to the people of New York. Helped start two nonprofit organizations that have both been thriving for 20 years. A decade ago, I worked on the Obama-era Broadband Technology Opportunities Program projects in multiple communities. In 2015, I entered public service working for the City of New York, working on broadband strategy there. After I left that public service, I had the opportunity to advise Darren Walker in his role as the co-chair of the Broadband Subcommittee of the Reimagine New York Commission. And that's also just a way of saying that when I saw Governor Hochul's Connect All agenda, I was incredibly inspired by the comprehensiveness and the vision that she brought to this, that entire government has brought to this. And so these are the key programs that the governor announced. Connect All programs for municipal infrastructure and assistance, affordable housing connectivity, a statewide digital equity plan and grant program, a rural broadband program, and a connectivity innovation program, in addition to a suite of initiatives to facilitate broadband deployment and adoption. And again, this is just a truly comprehensive suite of programs that give us the tools to address this multifaceted and entrenched challenge, whether it's a combination of infrastructure, social challenges, business challenges. It's just wonderful to see the comprehensiveness. Now, every state is developing a broadband office at this point, or has developed one. But I think the ambition and vision that Governor Hochul has brought to this is real leadership. And again, as somebody who's been working on this for a long time, this was truly inspiring, and I'm greatly appreciative of the opportunity that President Knight has given me to lead this office. The authorizing legislation, one of the key strengths is that we have the full endorsement from the legislature. Codifying and solidifying these programs, and really, announcing a clear role for both the public and private sector in getting this done, and including forming the Broadband Access Advisory Committee, which has public and industry and labor representation on it. And I think one of the things you see across the governor's announcement and the legislature's codification of it and endorsement, and why it's so important to have it at Empire State Development, is because we really do have an opportunity not just to deliver service where it's needed and address those inequities and challenges throughout the state, but also to make broadband a thriving industry in New York with widespread equitable benefits and opportunities for consumers, workers, and businesses.
Hey, Josh, do you mind questions in
No.
between? Because I'll probably forget by the
Okay.
time you get to the 30s. And that is, so in the past, there were multiple state agencies involved in the state's broadband efforts, and are they now all consolidated in the ESD, or do other state agencies still play a role, and are we the lead role?
Yes, we are the lead role. Other agencies absolutely play a critical role, and part of what the legislation makes clear is that this office is the coordinating and leading entity for those efforts. But there are important roles certainly for the Department of Public Service, which retains its regulatory mandate. New York Power Authority, which is authorized to make some of its fiber infrastructure available. DOT maintains its right-of-way and permitting function, and then on the social and engagement side, there are a number of social services focused agencies that we also work with closely, since outreach and support is a critical component as well.
Great, thank you very much.
So the governor announced this was a more than $1 billion program. This is the what that is comprised of, which includes 5 separate federal grants coming out of 2 separate pieces of legislation. So the Broadband Equity Access and Deployment Program in the IIJA is focused on broadband deployment, and there's a planning grant as well as an implementation grant. It also includes the State Digital Equity Program, which again has a planning grant and a grant for capacity building and implementation. ARPA, the Rescue Plan Act, which has a Coronavirus Capital Projects Fund. That's an implementation grant of $345 million. And then there was a state allocation. As we'll see, some of these funds we have ranges because the federal government is still determining the allocation, but we anticipate the total will be more than $1.1 billion based on what we understand today. So this is a timeline of those grant programs across the two acts, which were passed in 2021, and the key takeaways from this timeline certainly is the number of moving parts to it, as you can see, and the variety of deadlines. Some of which the ones that have come to pass we've met, and we are moving forward with towards the next components. But also that we have not received any of these federal grants yet, and that's just consistent with the way the federal timeline and the federal agencies are working. So that's an important message that we've been sharing with our partners, that yes, it is a $1 billion plus program, but these federal grants are not in hand yet. And that, in many ways, we're in an early stage. There's a planning phase incorporated into those infrastructure programs, which makes great sense and gives us a great opportunity to assess the status and plan to implement these funds. But also, the other thing, excuse me, is that the funds do have expiration dates. And we have to move expeditiously because, frankly, given the size of the program, we have to turn money into broadband twice as fast as we've done in the past, and that's the challenge that we're rising to meet.
And do we have to actually apply for those funds, or is this sort of the check is in the mail, we're just waiting to receive it?
We have applied for 3 of the grants. The remaining grants, where you saw the ranges in terms of the Infrastructure Act funding and the digital equity funding, those allocations are to be determined and will be dispersed once we submit the plans that we'll be producing over the next 9 to 12 months.
Thank you.
And then lastly, just to note that if you look at today, we are in what I'm referring to as the FCC MAP challenge window, and we'll have more on that later, which I'll explain when we get to what our actions on that have been to date. So just want to now just transition to giving you an example of the work we've done to date, 3 of our key recent actions, and they'll give you a sense also of the breadth of expertise and coordination involved in some of these projects. First one, announced in May, is a $10 million investment in 4 rural communities, pilot deployments with the New York Power Authority, leveraging their existing fiber infrastructure, partnering with regional fiber operators and private providers, and as well as local government, local electric utility, to deliver advanced internet service. You can see a testimonial following a town hall meeting in Nichols. And I think one of the things to take away from this is just what an incredible economic development tool these investments are, and this program is, because these are fairly hard to reach areas. If they don't have broadband service, obviously they're challenged in a variety of economic ways, but in terms of access to education, jobs, health services even. And we can deliver economic development in a very targeted way to relatively small towns and locations. And we've begun that, building that capability in partnership with local and other state agencies.
Hey Josh, we live in downstate. A lot of us probably take for granted, that a lot of us have good broadband, and we complain if something's not downloading after 30 seconds,
Right.
you know, that it's too slow. But in terms of our target, I don't know if you have a slide on this, are most of the issues in the state, is this more of an upstate issues, or do we have significant pockets here downstate as well that need broadband services enhanced?
There are needs across the entire state, and that is, again, one of the benefits of this program, is that we have both the opportunity and obligation to deliver services across the state. As I showed at the beginning, the Connect All is this suite of tools, some of which addressing the education and affordability and adoption challenges, some of which are addressing the infrastructure or business challenges. And what we're going to be doing through the planning phase is identifying in each region and locality of the state what balance of those tools need to be brought to bear to address those challenges. But absolutely downstate, upstate, this again is just a wonderful opportunity, but also challenge of this program is that we are going to be delivering that support to absolutely every region of the state.
Great, terrific, thank you.
As an example of that, actually, it's a wonderful segue to talking about the affordability challenge. Also in the Infrastructure Act is an affordable connectivity program, which is a direct to consumer subsidy. And so in partnership with Department of Public Service and all those, what we're calling the Digital Equity Working Group, partners of various state agencies, our library systems throughout the state, a variety of local community partners, getting the word out about this program. So we've been able to reach the milestone of 1 million New York households, which is a fantastic number, but it's really also that we are doing well in terms of the overall percentage, but there's more work to be done, and the FCC recently opened an outreach program, and we're looking carefully at that and what we can do to continue to increase adoption of this, because the second million is harder than the first million, and that's the work that remains to be done, so we're continuing to move this effort along through a collaboration, but very proud that we reached this milestone. And just to point out the numbers here, the benefit is $30 a month for eligible households. So we're talking about more than $360 million a year, and that's money that people now have to spend on other essential services or spend as part of in our local economy. So this is a great return in that regard for New Yorkers. The third example, this is a bit more wonky, but this is also a critical function, is to understand how this is moving between the federal, various federal agencies and the states. So that's the way those allocations for the Infrastructure Act will be made will be in part based on maps that are being produced by the Federal Communications Commission, separate from the Commerce Department, which is administering the grant program. And the first step of that was to make available to states just a list of addresses and serviceable locations. Because of the Governor Hochul's leadership and the work of the Department of Public Service and our partners at the State GIS office, we were prepared with the state broadband maps and able to quickly produce an analysis of that data and submit a challenge of over 31,000 records. I've heard similar discrepancies from other states, but I've yet to hear that any other state was able to actually meet the requirements of the challenge process to deliver that. So I'm very proud of that collaborative work and the preparation that went into that to submit that challenge. Beginning tomorrow, there will be a public map that will show what the FCC believes to be the level of service or lack of service across the country for every address. We'll obviously be assessing that compared to the data that Department of Public Service has produced. But this challenge window is also going to be very much oriented towards consumers, and so we're going to be promoting that through our local partners to consumers and encouraging anybody who can to visit that website, and if you can't, to go to your local library to to check that website and make sure that that your data is accurately presented, because that will have an impact on the amount of funding that is then available to the state to address the challenges. So that's really the phase that we're in terms of the data collection, the planning, having submitted those applications, and continuing to strengthen the agency partnerships, the local government partnerships, the industry partnerships, and community-based partnerships that will allow us to address these challenges. And just, thank you again, and I look forward to continuing to update the board as we begin to implement these programs and Governor Hochul's agenda.
Great. Well, Joshua, thank you very much. It's exciting. A lot of responsibility. I know Governor Hochul has given us and the legislature resources to carry out a lot of new duties that we're obligated to carry out. And are you beefing up the staff, and how's the hiring going? Is that going well?
It is, and I have to really thank all the team at ESD for moving that along. It's a great agency to be a part of, and all those resources have been brought to bear on the hiring process and the grant process. So that is moving along. We are adding that capacity. The federal grants include administrative resources. So we're moving that along, and excited to continue to grow the office.
Great. And I just have one last question, and that is, are we reaching out to the private sector as well, whether it's our friends from Spectrum or Verizon or Crown Castle? They have a lot of expertise as well, and are we picking their brains and getting their input into our planning efforts? Absolutely.
That process, that I've begun meetings with those stakeholders as well. We have obviously the large companies that have that expertise across much of the state. We also have a great collection of smaller companies in some of the various regions. Some companies that have been around for over 100 years. Some of them are still family owned. And we have begun and will continue to engage with all of those stakeholders. Certainly, the companies that you mentioned are front of mind for that effort.
Great. Well, that's terrific. We look forward to having you back, in the future to give us an update. But it sounds like you certainly have your hands full. And any of the other directors have any other questions for Joshua? Great. Well, very informative, and I hope the board, appreciates it. I know I just learned a whole lot, just like we did last time at the with the I Love New York, and perhaps you could get your slide deck to Debbie, and she could share it with the directors as well.
Absolutely, happy to. Thank you again for the opportunity, Chair.
All right. Thank you, Joshua. All right. Now we will move on to our official agenda. And first item, we have a corporate action for an office of the corporation. We have the appointment of a new executive vice president for real estate and planning, and her name is Arden Sokolov. And first of all, is Arden here?
Yes. Hello.
Hey, Arden, how are you? Why don't you introduce yourselves to the board and tell us a little bit, about your background, and we're excited that you're joining us.
I'm excited to be here. Thank you, Chair, so much, and thank you to ESD for giving me such a warm welcome here. I'm Arden Sokolov. I've been here now 4 weeks, and I previously came from Douglaston Development, a developer of affordable and market rate housing. Prior to that, I have what my family jokingly calls my bureaucratic triple crown. I worked at the city, state, and federal level on real estate development, and I've done affordable housing, mixed use, mostly housing, but a lot of other types of real estate development, and I'm excited to be here.
Oh, that's great. And I see, I share something in common with you. Before I went to law school, I also got my master's in urban affairs at Hunter College.
At Hunter?
Yes, so fellow alum. That's great. So thank you for that presentation. I think it sounds like you made a wise decision. And I will move the approval of the appointment of Arden. Benson, will you second it? And are there any comments or questions for Arden or on the motion? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? None? Oop. That was a yes from Rob Simpson. Yep, very good. Yep, very good. So unanimous, Arden, welcome, and we look forward to working with you and hearing future reports from you. There's hardly anything going on in the real estate division, so.
Very quiet.
Yeah, so good, but we look forward to working with you.
Thank you.
Okay. Let's now continue. We're going to get to the project section, and we'll start in Western New York, where Paul Tronalone is getting ready for the 4 or 5 feet of snow where that's threatening Buffalo. And Paul, you have several projects to share with us today?
Yes, Chairman. Good morning. Good morning, directors. 3 items today. For the first item, the directors are asked to adopt a general project plan and provide a grant of $1 million to the Niagara Frontier Transportation Authority, which operates all public transit in the region, to fund a portion of an over $28 million project to restore vehicular access on the southernmost segment of the Main Street Metro Rail Plaza in downtown Buffalo between Exchange Street and the Buffalo waterfront. In the mid-1980s, when the Metro Rail system first opened, its 1-mile surface segment on Main Street was a transit and pedestrian-only plaza, which ultimately proved to hurt small businesses there. And over the last decade, NFTA and the city of Buffalo have been undertaking a phased program of returning full multimodal access, cars, pedestrian, bicycle to Main Street as part of a track bed replacement for the Metro Rail system. This is the 4th segment of the Main Street plaza that has been converted thus far. It'll directly report activities of our subsidiary Erie Canal Harbor Development Corporation's Canal Side project and a number of other upcoming projects. It's a Round 6 West New York REDC CFA project, and will cover a portion of the non-federal matching funding for the project, which primarily involves U.S. Department of Transportation funds along with other state funds. Now, for the second item, the directors are asked to adopt an amended general project plan.
Hey, Paul,
and provide an addition. Yes,
Paul, I'm going to
sure.
stop you because I'm told we need to have separate votes for each one. I think it'll just be easier
absolutely.
for the directors to
That's
vote after your presentation on each one. So I know that's different than what we had talked about a few months ago. So, again, all the written materials on all of these projects that are going to be presented to us have been shared with the board members on our director's desk. So I will move this. Is there a second? Second. Second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. Paul, on to your second item.
Okay. The directors are asked to adopt an amended general project plan and provide an additional grant of $20 million to the Central Terminal Restoration Corporation, which is the not-for-profit organization that owns the National Register listed former New York Central Rail Terminal complex. Now it's called the Buffalo Central Terminal. It's an iconic Art Deco complex in the Broadway Fillmore neighborhood of East Buffalo. The grant will build upon a previously awarded $5 million grant for structural stabilization to cover the design and construction of a second phase of stabilization and site preparation, including the complex's subsurface parking structure. These efforts were all specified as part of a master plan process in 2021 that ESD funded as part of our East Side programs. Now, funding for this phase of the work was part of the Governor Hochul's announcement in June for a 3-city regional revitalization partnership with local philanthropic organizations and municipal government. And under this partnership, a combined investment of $61 million is ultimately planned at the Central Terminal, with $54 million coming from state sources and $7 million coming from philanthropy and municipal sources. Local philanthropic organizations have already invested in a full-time staff at the Central Terminal Restoration Corporation, and additional funding will be provided along these capacity building activities concurrent with the state's capital investment. And I'll stop there for any questions.
Great. Any questions for Paul on this one? If not, I will move it. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. Your third item, Paul?
Yes, directors are asked to adopt a general project plan and provide a grant of $3 million to NFC Development Corporation, which is the City of Niagara Falls not-for-profit local development corporation, related to the administration of the Niagara Falls Small Business Property Improvement Program. The proposed program grew out of the planning process in Niagara Falls that became part of Governor Hochul's announcement for the three-city regional revitalization partnership that I just spoke about. Under the partnership, a combined investment of $40 million is planned for several projects and programs in Niagara Falls, with $20 million coming from the state and the balance coming from philanthropy in the city of Niagara Falls. Now, for this subject $3 million program, it would provide a small business grants of up to $100,000 to cover up to 50% of project costs for facade and building renovations in 5 target business districts in the city of Niagara Falls. And the project will be modeled after the New York State Main Street program and other similar small business programs successfully administered in Niagara Falls in the past. The grant will also provide funds for NFC to contract with architecture and engineering services so that such services could be offered at no charge to participants in the program. Concurrently, $2 million in support will be provided via local philanthropy for both operational support and towards the capital grant fund itself. And with that, I'll stop for any questions.
Great. Thank you, Paul. Any questions? Nope. And for all 3 of these, we did not receive any comments from the public on these applications either. So note that for the record. So I will move that. Is there a second? Second by John. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? None. Rob, I see your hand going up for each one. They're all duly noted. Thank you. Central New York region now. Thank you, Paul. We'll hand it over to Jim Fail, Regional Director of ESD's Central New York region. I'll remind staffers on the phone, if you're not speaking, if you could have your phone on mute. Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you. The directors are being asked to approve a $1,050,000 grant for State University of New York at Morrisville. This was a $2.580 million grant that will help cover costs to renovate and purchase machinery and equipment to help equip a 4-season farm facility on campus. SUNY Morrisville specializes in the agricultural industry in its educational capacity. This project will also help support the newly evolving cannabis industry. The project has been completed, and the first disbursement is being requested at this time. I will take any questions.
Thank you, Jim. If the project's been completed, is it, when you say first disbursement, we don't give them all of it right now, or?
Well, no, I guess I'm sorry, I misspoke. Yes, they're eligible for their full amount.
Yes, that's what I thought. Thank you very much, Jim. Any other questions for Jim? Hearing none, I will move it. Is there a second? I hope. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? None. The motion carries. On to the Mohawk Valley region. And again, a reminder, please mute your phones if you're not speaking. We're hearing a little bit of feedback. We have Linda Malavi, REDC Deputy Director for the Mid-Hudson region.
Good morning. Thank you. The directors are requested to approve a $1,118,910 Regional Council Capital Grant from Round 8 for the Academy Capital Project in the city of Poughkeepsie in Dutchess County. The Academy has invested $10,195,515 to renovate the formerly underutilized commercial spaces at 33 to 35 Academy Street in the city's central business district. This mixed-use development is located in a distressed downtown. The Academy features a co-working space, coffee shop, food hall, fresh foods market, and event space with 28 affordable apartments on the upper floors. This project will result in the creation of 65 net new jobs, and the company currently has 54 employees. As a woman-led, LEED-accredited construction firm, Baxter Building Corporation, the developers for this project, have operated for over 35 years as a successful construction and development company in the Hudson Valley. The company broke ground for the Academy in October of 2020, and although this project experienced delays due to the COVID-19 pandemic, in June of 2022, a ribbon-cutting event was held to mark the opening of the food hall, food market, and event space. The Academy is a welcome addition to a distressed downtown area in the city of Poughkeepsie that has adaptively reused long vacant commercial space. And this project aligns with the MHRADC's play strategy by strengthening the region as a premier tourist destination and supports the regional economic cluster plan, food and beverage manufacturing supply chain by leasing space to local food and beverage businesses. The MHRADC's work strategy is also met by the project creating 65 net new jobs in a downtown distressed area, and the project aligns with the state's priority of revitalizing our downtown communities. And I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Linda. And I misspoke earlier when I said on to the Mohawk Valley region. We don't have any projects in the Mohawk Valley region this month. And of course, Linda, as I did correctly state, she's from our Mid-Hudson region. Linda, I have one question for you. Since this is a mixed-use project, our grant only goes for the infrastructure or the commercial aspects of this project, but not the housing components of the project. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Got it.
Absolutely correct.
So ESD monies don't ever go for housing. Other state agencies' monies or grants may go for the housing, and our monies go either for the commercial side or for the infrastructure needed to get these mixed-use projects off the ground.
That is correct.
Great. Thank you for that clarification. Any other questions
Yes.
for Linda? Hearing none, I will move the motion. Is there a second? Ms. John, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? None. The motion carries. On to the New York City region with Joe Taswell. Joe is here with us today. Joe, how are you?
Good, great. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good morning. This is a request to approve a $325,000 grant to the Lower East Side Girls Club of New York, a community-based nonprofit organization, in connection with the $6.8 million cost of acquiring, renovating, and equipping a 5,000 square foot commercial space for the organization's new Center for Wellbeing and Happiness. In addition, this facility will house a new workforce development center. The new center is located at 101 Avenue D in Manhattan. This project was designated as a priority project by the New York City Regional Council in REDC Round 6 and is in alignment with the Council's opportunity agenda and workforce development strategies. The Lower East Side Girls Club was founded in 1996 by a community of mothers to address the stark disparity of services for girls and young women on the Lower East Side of Manhattan. The organization, which has a 29-person staff, has grown from a small grassroots organization to a globally recognized institution with partnerships across the city and state, nationally and internationally. The organization offers programs in mentoring, arts, academic support, wellness, STEM, and leadership, environmental and social justice advocacy, entrepreneurship, and job training. The new workforce development facility will provide space and resources for its extensive network of partners to train up to 160 annual participants in the following areas: healthcare, maternal health with a focus on birth worker training, child care, which will focus on training for the necessary certification to provide home-based child care in the Lower East Side public housing, the green economy, which will provide jobs in the building automation system industry, and economic wellness, which will provide entrepreneurial training and financial counseling. The project was completed in September, and the Lower East Side Girls Club has satisfied its obligations under the ESD incentive proposal to begin receiving funds. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Joe. Sounds like a terrific program. Any questions for Joe on this? Hearing none, I will move it. Is there a second? Second. Hope. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? None. The motion carries. On to Long Island, where we have Carol Longworth, the Regional Director of ESD's Long Island Region, on the phone.
Good morning, Kevin. Good morning, Hope and directors. We're asking the directors today to approve a regional council grant of up to $300,000 to Industrial Steam Boiler Corp. To pay for a portion of its construction of a new commercial steam boiler manufacturing plant, which is located in Copiague, Suffolk County. The project is complete. The company has expended the $3.5 million and created 31 jobs. This company also received a $200,000 Excelsior Tax Credit Award for this project. This project was a Round 8 priority project for the Long Island Regional Council as it supports the expansion of the region's manufacturing base and creates jobs. The Industrial Steam Boiler Corp is a private company that designs, manufactures, installs, and maintains commercial boilers in New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut. The principals of this company previously had an energy services company as well as a boiler repair and installation company, and they found to better serve their customers, they decided to create their own boilers and manufacture them. So they created this facility in Copiague, and they purchased, renovated, and purchased an equipment in the building in Copiague, and they now are manufacturing their own high-end commercial boilers and selling them and installing them. The project is complete, and they've created 31 jobs, which was 5 jobs above the commitment. Happy to answer any questions.
Terrific. Thank you, Kara. And since this was a Round 8 REDC matter, that means I was there when I was a co-chair of the Long Island REDC in Round 8, and I supported it then. I'll support it now, and I'll move it. Is there a second? Benson, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? None. The motion carries. Thank you, Kara. Okay, we now get to the at the direction of projects, and we have Simone Bethune, and she's our senior project manager and coordinator of projects, loans, and grants, and she has a project to share with us. Simone?
Thank you, and good morning to everyone. At the direction of grants refer to those commitments listed in the New York State budget that enhance the state's communities through cultural, educational, research and development, and civic organizations. These projects originate from the governor or the New York State Assembly or Senate, and ESD is named to administer the funding. ESD does not select the recipients of funding. Today we are requesting board approval for an $8 million special capital appropriation award made available to Syracuse University for facility upgrades to the Syracuse University Dome Stadium, also known as the JMA Wireless Dome. The dome opened in 1980 as the largest domed stadium of any college campus and the largest domed stadium in the northeastern United States. It is also the largest on-campus basketball arena in the nation with a listed capacity of 35,642 seats. Over the past 15 years, the dome's aging infrastructure and lack of modern amenities has led to a reduction in hosting, producing, and broadcasting events. A $20 million special capital appropriation award was included in the New York State budget fiscal year 2022-23 at the direction of the New York State Executive Chamber for costs related to reseating the venue, installing modern digital infrastructure, and constructing a new event space, which will total more than $37 million in project costs. ESD will administer the $20 million appropriation in the form of 2 grants. Today's $8 million award will be applied to the seating and digital infrastructure scope of work, while the construction of the new event space will be covered by a $12 million grant to be presented to the board at a future date. Annually, the Dome hosts an average of 935,000 visitors, 1/3 of whom travel from outside of the 5-county central New York region for these events. In addition, the Dome generates upwards of $240 million in added income to the central New York economy and supports more than 5,000 jobs in central New York. To maintain this important economic generator, ESD is recommending that the board authorize release of funds to support this project. And I can take any questions.
Thank you, Simone. And again, with these at the direction of projects, either the governor or the legislature or both have, approved this project previously, and ESD is sort of just acting as a pass-through for the disbursement of these funds. Is that correct?
That's right. Mm-hmm.
That is correct. All right. So with that, I will move it. Is there a second? John, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? None. The motion carries.
Thank
Go.
you.
Thank you, Simone. Next up, we have the Life Sciences Initiative Fund, and Maria Mitchell, our Senior VP of Life Sciences, is here with us in person. I'll hand the floor to you, Maria.
Thanks, Kevin. I don't know if you can hear me. I have one of these.
Yes.
It's on, okay. Good morning, everybody. This morning, we're seeking the director's approval for an Entrepreneur Development Stage 2 implementation grant of up to $500,000 for Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute. The program awards up to $550,000 to New York graduate business schools in collaboration with medical schools to develop and implement an MBA concentration or certificate program in the life science entrepreneurship. It is designed to help address the lack of life science entrepreneurial talent that is needed to advance startups in New York. RPI was one of 7 schools to receive also a Stage 1 planning grant of up to $50,000 and is now one of 5 schools selected to receive a Stage 2 implementation grant. RPI is working with the Icahn School of Medicine at Mount Sinai to create an MBA concentration as well as a shorter certificate program. The term of this grant is 5 years, during which the total investment for the project is $1.6 million. And thank you, and happy to answer any questions.
Right. Thank you, Maria. This is ESD's second investment in this entity, or is it the first?
RPI?
Yes.
I think in life sciences it's our first, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
Oh, second phase, yes, I'm sorry.
The second phase?
Yes.
Right. And so is it common for us to, after we've invested in an entity once, as they progress, we'll invest in them, subsequent time?
Yeah, well, the way this program worked was we asked for submissions for a planning grant, $50,000, and that we would select certain institutions from those initial applicants for phase 1. Once they did their planning grant, we would choose a number of those to get the second grant. So that's how the program was set up. So I think it's a fairly common practice, yeah.
Got it. So, and as they progress and they sort of earn,
they did a good job, so.
We continue to have trust and faith in them, and we invest more in them.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is great. Thanks for staying on
And
top.
it's nice because it's an upstate institution collaborating with a downstate institution, which makes this one particularly nice, I think.
Very good. Thanks for staying on top of that. Any questions for Maria? Hearing none, I will move it. Is there a second?
Second.
By Benson. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? None. The motion carries. Thank you, Maria. It now brings us to the administrative action items section of our agenda. Here is where we'll get a summary of numerous resolutions from Doug Janice, our senior counsel, and we're allowed to do one global resolution at the end of Doug's presentation to approve these items. Doug, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chairman Law, and good morning, directors. As the chairman just reminded you, in order to help streamline the board meetings, we previously implemented an oral summary presentation process in connection with the administrative actions section of the agenda. So you receive a full set of the written descriptive materials for each of these items in your board materials, as you have for this meeting. But rather than having individual oral presentations made on each, I will provide a brief summary of the items, and at the conclusion of the summary, staff will entertain any comments or questions directors may have. As noted previously by the chairman, we did receive 2 public comments on item 5C, which were provided to the directors and are posted online at the meeting's webpage. Following my presentation and any questions, the chair will then call for a motion to approve the entire slate of actions, items 5A through 5M. The administrative action items submitted for your consideration today and for which you have received written materials are summarized as follows. Item 5A, relative to the administration of funding for the USA Niagara Development Corporation. The board is being asked to approve a memorandum of understanding between ESD and its subsidiary, the USA Niagara Development Corporation, that will allow ESD to administer state-appropriated funds on behalf of USAN for the Niagara Falls Heritage Gateways project, which will include 4 public gateway features in downtown Niagara Falls. In addition, in lieu of seeking board approval each time ESD is administering funds for a USAN project and/or contract, Approval is being sought to permit ESD to manage the current project funding and future grant/contract funds on behalf of USAN at the direction of the ESD President and CEO without seeking further board approval. The next item is 5B, relative to the procurement of insurance brokerage services. Staff is requesting authorization to enter into a contract with Alliant Insurance Services, Inc. for insurance brokerage services. Alliant will market, procure, and advise on the renewal of ESD and subsidiary insurance policies and provide risk management support services for the corporation's insurance portfolio and projects. Contract amount for this 5-year engagement will not exceed $687,500, which includes a 10% contingency. So the fee is $125,000 a year plus the $12,500 contingency in each year. This will be funded using ESD corporate and subsidiary funds. The next item is item 5C, relative to the Pennsylvania Station Area Civic and Land Use Improvement Project. And it's an authorization to amend the contract with Ernst & Young Infrastructure Advisors. Ernst & Young has been providing financial advisory services on the Pennsylvania Station Area Civic and Land Use Improvement Project since January of 2020. Because continued services from Ernst & Young will be needed as the project moves forward, ESD is asking the directors to increase and extend the contract to $1.2 million and December of 2023, respectively. Item 5D is relative to the authorization to enter into a contract for construction and engineering and infrastructure advisory services on the Highline Moynihan Connector Civic Project. In September 2021, the ESD directors approved the general project plan and an ESD grant for the Highline Moynihan Connector Civic Project. Currently, the project is under construction with a projected completion in spring or summer of 2023. Upon completion of the project, ESD will also be taking ownership of the project. ESD is seeking to enter into a contract with AECOM during construction to contribute construction and engineering services, oversee and monitor design and construction activities, and audit use of ESD grant funds to ensure the project is completed in a safe and high-quality manner. Next is item 5E, relative to the procurement of infrastructure advisory services for strategic planning, development of broadband infrastructure, digital equity, technical assistance, and other grant programs for the Connect All office. The Connect All office is seeking director's approval for procuring a new contract with HR&A Advisors, Inc., consulting assistance with feasibility studies for broadband infrastructure, risk identification and assessment, implementation assistance, evaluation and monitoring services, regulatory and policy advisory services, bid evaluations, and procurement assistance. The contract would be for a term of 2 years and an amount not to exceed $14,430,000, with federal funding provided for in the American Rescue Plan Act and Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. Our next item is 5F, which is relative to the procurement of consultant services to conduct a disparity study. MGT of America Consulting, LLC, is to conduct a 2-part disparity study that will comprise of business and workforce studies relating to the use of minority and women-owned business enterprises, minority and women in state contracts, and a policy review. As for the policy review, the consultant will provide a basis for determining overall statewide goals for the participation of MWBEs, minorities and women in state contracts, as well as a review of race and gender conscious remedial programmatic tools in other states and large municipalities that may be relevant to the New York State framework. The contract term will be for up to 12 months and an amount not to exceed $1,294,000. Item 5G is relative to the authorization to enter into a contract for the renewal of Microsoft Dynamics Systems software and licensing. Staff is requesting authorization to enter into a contract with Dell for the renewal of Microsoft Dynamics Systems software and licenses. The contract involves renewing the corporation's software licensing for all aspects of Dynamics, including licenses for the Dynamics Systems, SharePoint, and Power BI. Contract amount for this 3-year engagement is $2,103,972.95, including the contingency, and will be funded using ESD corporate funds. The next items are items 5H through items 5M, which are relative to the Market Order Program contracts. The Marketing Order Program is a program administered in partnership with the Department of Agriculture and Markets and funds the marketing and promotion activities related to the New York State dairy industry. Dairy Promotion Advisory Board recommends funding for each authorized contractor based on that contractor's expertise and areas in which they operate. As a reminder, this program is funded by industry stakeholders and does not use New York State funds. ESD's main role in this program is executing and administering the necessary contracts with participating vendors, while the Department of Agriculture and Markets maintains a relationship with the Dairy Advisory Board and works to advance their efforts. They are an essential part of this program and continue to be a valued partner to ESD. So there are 5 marketing and promotion contracts, which are items 5H through 5L, and we're requesting approval of the 5 contracts for marketing and promotion of the New York dairy industry, totaling $13,665,040. And then item 5M is 1 contract for research and development related to the New York State dairy industry, and that contract is $1,483,879. Our final administrative item is item 5N, relative to the procurement of an MWBE certification consultant. The consultant, R6 Catalyst, will review minority and women-owned business enterprise certification applications, assess whether MWBE certification applicants meet the eligibility criteria set forth in New York State Executive Law Article 15A and applicable regulations, and then return the applications to the division with a recommendation for final determination. R6 Catalyst will be expected to review up to 3,500 applications and provide technical assistance to help applicants complete applications. The contract term will be for up to 18 months and shall not exceed $2,407,765, which is a $2,188,877 fee and a $218,888 contingency. And with that, I will now turn it back to the chair, who will call for any questions or comments you may have related to these items before calling for a vote. And we also have item-related staff on the line today to take any questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Doug. That was very well done with a lot of things to cover. We did receive 2 comments from the public on item VC related to procurement process and who was paying for which services. Doug, are you in a position to address those questions raised and answer them, or is Goldie or somebody else available to answer those questions?
I think we have Terrence Cho on the line. Terrence, are you there?
Terrence, are you on mute?
Oh, sorry, I cut out for 1 second. Hi. Yes, this is Terrence Cho, and yes, Chairman Law, I'm available to answer any questions on that item.
Yeah, well, we've seen the letters, and they've been posted on our website. I'm just wondering, is there anything you could share about the questions raised? Especially, there was a question about who was paying for what, and what exactly were we extending with this resolution?
Sure, I'm happy to walk you through, and your fellow directors of the board. Chairman Law and Director of the Board, my name is Terrence Cho, and I'm a director in the real estate department here at ESD. And to summarize the purpose and need and the background for this proposed amendment, in July of this year, in 2022, the Penn Station project achieved a couple of big milestones. It achieved approval of the GPP by the ESD directors in July, as well as ESD obtained PACB approval for ESD to enter into a financial agreement with the City of New York for the Penn Station project. These 2 milestones laid the groundwork for the next steps for ESD in the Penn Station civic and land use project. And there are a lot of future steps. There's a lot left to do. These next steps include future negotiations with developers, formalizing the city-state financial framework, MOU, that we have with the City of New York, and continuing to analyze financial and revenue strategies to generate essential revenue for the Penn Station reconstruction and expansion projects and additional public realm and transit improvements with our partners at the railroads, including MTA, Amtrak, and New Jersey Transit. This is a complex project, as you know, with ambitious goals and complex financing with multiple financing sources. The ultimate goal of the project is to create a thriving and sustainable transit-oriented district around North America's largest transportation hub, with much needed subway improvements, subway and transit improvements, and public realm amenities that will be integrated with the reconstruction Penn Station. All that to say, the approvals in July, this past summer, marked really the first of many phases of the project. There's a lot of work left to do on all fronts, from design, planning, and engineering, which our partners at MTA are handling for the station projects, and ESD is spearheading with the public realm improvements with the launch of the Public Realm Task Force this past fall. And there is a lot of left work to do for financial analysis to generate a sustainable and valid financial strategy to fund the project, and the latter of which is what we are requesting the board to approve for Ernst & Young to continue to provide its services and analysis to help ESD generate that financial strategy. With regard to your last question about the sources of funding for this proposed amendment, just to be clear for the record, and as stated in our board materials, the costs for Ernst & Young services are paid for through a New York State appropriation. Any developer, not Vornado or any developer, has not paid for any of Ernst & Young's costs at any time during the time of the Penn Station project. And all the costs related to E&Y to Ernst & Young have been paid for wholly by Empire State Development. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any further questions if there are any.
Thank you, Terrence. No, I think you addressed the issue that was raised in the public comment and any question I had. Do any other directors have any other questions for Terrence on this matter? Do any directors have any questions for Doug on the rest of the items in the administrative sections of the agenda? No? Hearing none, I will move the omnibus resolution for all of these items A through N. Is there a second? Second. Second by Benson and John. So all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? None. The motion carries. And, you know, when you just go through like that entire report that Doug just did, it, you know, confirms what Hope and I were saying in the beginning. All the different sectors that ESD touches. You know, we just went through the dairy industry, the higher ed industry, the life sciences industry, the broadband, mixed use and TOD, workforce training, and then the MWBE certification process. We really do. We touch, you know, I don't think there's any other agency in the state that touches almost every sector of New York's economy. So it's great to see, and the professionalism of the staff is not only respected but appreciated, because you're able to answer all of our questions on so many different issues. So greatly appreciated. Kevin?
513.
513 what?
People work in this organization today.
That's it. With all of that responsibility. You know, when we heard Joshua's presentation, he sounded like he needed 513 people just to handle the all of the broadband obligations. So, so kudos to Hope, you and your team here, and thank you for that. So, so that motion was approved. The last item on the agenda is for information only, but like a good director, I go through that and I read it, and I do have a question while it doesn't require a vote, and I don't know if Ray is here or if Kevin, there he is. Oh, hey, Ray, I'm sorry. You're hiding behind.
Right,
so
I'm found.
It was essentially a budget overview of where we are to date. We're sort of 6-7 months into the fiscal year, which ends on March 31st. And I noticed that a lot of the monies that have been allocated to ESD have not yet been spent. Like we don't see 50% of the money spent at 50% of the year, the fiscal year being over. And is there a reason for that? And could you just explain that to me?
Sure. Can everybody hear me? There's essentially two reasons. The first reason has to do with personnel. This agency was given a huge increase in headcount at the beginning of the year. That increase was funded fully for 100% of everyone's salary beginning on day one. Take some time to hire folks. We've been hiring up, as you heard from various folks. So as we go through the year, we still have a bunch of significant amount of vacant positions as we're ramping these new initiatives up. So we have the money for 100% of the time, but someone who starts in June or someone like Arden who just started, right, that salary just began.
Got it.
So so that's the PS side. On the OTPS side, we also fully fund the contracts that we enter into for various purposes, including some of the ones we just approved today. And as you know, first we approve the contract, sign it up, the work begins, the bill comes in. That also doesn't happen on day one. So there's also a corresponding sort of OTPS component as well. So those two factors account for the vast majority of the difference between where we begin the year and where we are 2 quarters in. These numbers will continue to grow as the year continues. So we'll be much closer to authorized levels by the end of the year.
So the second half of the year, we tend to...
Yeah, it'll get a lot closer. The below 50 will be obviously above 50 and a lot closer to 100 than we are today.
That sounds very logical. Thank you for that, for that, Ray. Does anybody else have any question for Ray on the for information only item on the agenda? No, we don't require a vote on that. Ray, thank you very much. That concludes, the official business for the board today. Does any director have any other matter or business they'd like to raise? Hearing none. Our next board meeting is going to be on December 15th here in New York City. And I want to wish everybody here at the staff and those participating by phone or watching very happy and healthy Thanksgiving, and look forward to seeing you in December. I will move to adjourn. John seconds it, and we all say yes. And the meeting is adjourned. Thank you, and have a happy Thanksgiving.